2 songs, 1 album, and a global chart takeover that feels almost cinematic. In a year crowded with viral moments and algorithm-driven hits, Bruno Mars has done something rare. He has reclaimed the #1 spot across multiple platforms at the same time and made it look effortless. This week, the multi-Grammy-winning superstar stands at the center of a global streaming storm. His single I Just Might has returned to #1 on the worldwide iTunes song chart for a 12th day, while Risk It All is surging across Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube in the United States and abroad. Meanwhile, his self-written and self-produced album The Romantic is holding the top position on iTunes and Apple Music in dozens of countries. The numbers are staggering. But the deeper story is about timing, reinvention, and an artist who understands pop music at its emotional core. To understand this moment, you have to go back to Honolulu. Born Peter Gene Hernandez in Hawaii, Bruno Mars grew up immersed in performance. His father played percussion. His mother was a singer and dancer. By age 4, he was impersonating Elvis Presley on stage. By his teenage years, he had already absorbed decades of American music history, Motown, classic rock, R&B, funk, not as nostalgia but as living language. When he moved to Los Angeles after high school, success did not come overnight. Mars initially found his footing as a songwriter and producer, co-writing hits before stepping into the spotlight himself. That behind-the-scenes apprenticeship would become one of his greatest strengths. He learned the machinery of pop from the inside out. From Just the Way You Are to Locked Out of Heaven, from Uptown Funk to the era-defining 24K Magic, Mars built a catalog that merged retro influences with modern hooks. He became known for precision, tight arrangements, live instrumentation, choreography that nodded to James Brown and Prince, and an obsession with performance excellence. In an age of casual virality, Bruno Mars built a brand around polish. Now with The Romantic, he appears to be entering a new chapter, one rooted not in bombast but vulnerability. I Just Might feels like a late-night confession set to a stadium-ready chorus. The track blends understated verses with a soaring hook, driven by live drums and warm analog textures. It recently rebounded to #2 on European iTunes after spending 10 days at the top, and it continues climbing on global and US Spotify charts. Its resilience suggests something beyond a debut spike. It suggests replay value. Risk It All, meanwhile, is a different kind of statement. The song has dominated US Spotify, topped US iTunes, and trended at #1 on YouTube in America for multiple days. With tens of millions of daily views and sustained streaming momentum, it represents one of the strongest commercial runs of the year. Industry analysts note that multi-platform dominance, Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, and YouTube simultaneously, is increasingly rare. Music critic Alan Light recently observed in a podcast discussion, "What makes Bruno Mars different is that he builds songs for the long run. They're engineered for radio, yes, but they're also built for weddings, road trips, and heartbreak playlists. That's longevity." Producers who have worked in adjacent circles describe Mars as meticulous to a near-mythic degree. A veteran studio engineer who has collaborated with several top-tier artists told us he'll spend hours on a snare tone, not because he has to, because he wants it to feel timeless. He's chasing records that sound good in 20 years. That philosophy is audible across The Romantic. The album, currently #1 on iTunes in more than 25 countries and leading Apple Music charts in over 50 territories, showcases cohesive storytelling. It is not simply a collection of singles. Every track charts in the US Apple Music Top 60. That kind of album-wide engagement signals a committed fan base, listeners consuming the project front to back. In an era defined by playlists, full album performance is increasingly meaningful. The cultural timing may also explain the surge. After years of maximalist pop and hyperdigital production, there is growing appetite for warmth, real instruments, emotional clarity, songs that feel personal. Bruno Mars has always leaned into analog soul, but with this release, he leans further into romance and restraint. The title itself, The Romantic, reads like a thesis statement. American pop culture cycles between irony and sincerity. Right now, sincerity is winning. On TikTok and YouTube, clips of Risk It All are being used for wedding proposals, anniversary tributes, and slow-motion reunion videos. The music is not just topping charts, it is soundtracking life events. Spotify data trends show that both Risk It All and I Just Might are landing on relationship-themed playlists at high rates. That organic integration into everyday storytelling amplifies their staying power. Behind the glamour, however, lies discipline. Mars is famously private. Unlike many contemporaries, he rarely overshares online. He does not flood social media with daily updates. Instead, he appears when the work is ready. That mystique matters. A senior A&R executive at a major label speaking on background explained it this way: scarcity builds value. Bruno Mars doesn't chase the feed, he drops music when it's undeniable. There is also the matter of catalog power. Older tracks such as Just the Way You Are and It Will Rain have re-entered digital charts in the United States. That resurgence suggests renewed listener interest in his earlier romantic material, a halo effect from the new album. In industry terms, this is called cross-catalog lift. In cultural terms, it's nostalgia meeting renewal. Pop historian and author Touré recently commented during a panel discussion, Bruno Mars understands American music history. He doesn't parody it, he honors it. That's why older generations trust him and younger generations adopt him. Trust is a powerful currency. It helps explain why Bruno Mars continues to perform strongly across geographic markets. From North America to Europe to Asia-Pacific territories, the Romantic has hit #1 in countries as diverse as the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, Germany, and beyond. Few American pop artists maintain that breadth. Part of that success may be structural. Mars writes and produces much of his material. Creative control allows for consistency. There is no stylistic whiplash from trend chasing, instead there is refinement. Another part is performance legacy. Long before streaming metrics dominated headlines, Bruno Mars built a reputation as one of the strongest live performers of his generation. His Super Bowl halftime appearances, arena tour, and Las Vegas residencies demonstrated a level of showmanship that translates into digital loyalty. When he releases new music, audiences trust the craft. And then there is the emotional core. Risk It All centers on vulnerability, the willingness to love without guarantees. I Just Might carries the tension of hesitation and hope. In a polarized cultural climate, songs about commitment feel grounding. For YouTube audiences in particular, the narrative arc is compelling. A child performer from Hawaii becomes a global pop architect. He masters retro funk, he conquers arenas, he steps back, and now he returns with an album that doubles down on romance in an age of distraction. It feels almost countercultural. Yet the numbers tell a pragmatic story: multiple top 10 placements on global Apple Music, 11 songs in the global top 70, sustained US Spotify dominance. These are not nostalgia metrics, they are current consumption patterns. The broader industry is watching closely. If the Romantic continues its trajectory, it may influence label strategies toward cohesive, emotionally resonant albums rather than fragmented single drops. Already, younger artists are citing classic songwriting structures and live instrumentation as renewed inspiration. There are, of course, questions about sustainability. Streaming spikes can cool, trends evolve quickly, but Bruno Mars has weathered cycles before. His career has spanned more than a decade in an industry where relevance often expires within years. In many ways, this moment feels less like a comeback and more like consolidation. An artist refining his lane, an audience rediscovering the comfort of melody-driven pop, a reminder that craftsmanship still cuts through noise. As the charts update daily and the metrics continue to shift, one thing remains clear: Bruno Mars has positioned himself not merely as a hitmaker but as a curator of feeling. In a landscape powered by speed, he offers precision. In a culture obsessed with irony, he offers earnestness. The next question is not whether this run will last another week, it is what this chapter means long-term. If the Romantic marks the beginning of a sustained era, it could redefine how modern pop balances nostalgia and innovation. It could inspire a wave of artists to slow down, to write with intention, to produce with care. And if history is any indication, Bruno Mars will not stand still. He has always evolved, subtly, strategically, and on his own timeline. For now, the charts belong to him, the streams are climbing, the world is listening again. And somewhere in a studio, perhaps late at night, adjusting a drum tone by a fraction, Bruno Mars is likely already thinking about the next song that will make us risk it all.